Amy. Who are you?
A, I'm an award-winning scrimshander. B, I'm a moderately influential warlord. C, I write personality quizzes for magazines.
Okay. Well, your hands are far too delicate for real scrimshaw work. And I happen to be a charter subscriber to Middling Warlord Weekly, so I'd recognize you. I'm gonna go with C.
And you? Who are you?
I'm the guy to save you from all this awesomeness.
And that's a clip from Gone Girl. I'm delighted to say that David Fincher, the director, is with us. David, good day to you.
Oh, thank you.
How do we find you, sir?
I'm all right. I'm a little tired, but I'm all right.
This conversation is a minefield of spoilers. So it's, so I'm
We
going
can
to
stop now.
Well, no, we could just. Sometimes there are just movies where you just say, "Go see the film."
Well, I'll take that.
And that's it. But but we have a certain amount of time with you, and we
Okay.
would like to. I'm just aware that it's just one of those conversations. It's quite a movie that's quite difficult to talk about. So, can you, as an opening pitch, David, just for those who haven't read the book, and there are some, just explain where we are with Gone Girl and explain some of the story, and then we'll take it from there, tiptoeing.
Oh God, I honestly, this is one of those books in the process of adapting it to cinema. It was so many conversations about exactly this subject, which is, once you make it, how do you sell it without ruining it? And I think there are so many conversations that have been had between the time I said yes, let's go spend $50 million and try and do this, and today, where we've been asked, well, can we expect to see this checklist of ideas from the novel make it to the screen? I can't even get into that because I think ultimately it's not about what happens. It's about how it happens. And I think that's what makes it cinematic as opposed to, I mean, if I could just give you a checklist and say,
Yes.
This is going to be there and going to be the Ozarks and there's going to be Lola and, there's going to be these different, I just don't think you can handle the I don't think you can make a legitimate promise as to what the expectation should be through a checklist. So I'll just say, I think it's a movie that begins, I think it's an interesting mystery. And I think at some point in the movie it becomes an absurdist thriller.
Okay, so those who don't know the story will be none the wiser, and you're certainly you're tiptoeing far more than me. So tell us about Nick and Amy. As you would wish to.
It's a marriage that is 5 years in, and we meet a man on the morning that his wife disappears for no discernible reason. There may be there are certain indications in the house that say that it may have been an act of violence that took her from the home, and it's a story that is an interwoven look at what's happening in real time in this small town as this investigation unfolds, and a series of diary entries that begin to shed light on the fact that all is not as it would seem to be.
Yeah. And is it fair to say, and tell me if at any stage I tread on something I shouldn't, is it fair to say, and I'm changing a slight quote from the movie, this is the most messed up couple ever?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen some pretty bad marriages. It's
as bad as this one?
It's very heightened. I would say this. I would say that the resentment in it is probably something that a lot of people can relate to, but how that inspires certain behaviors is probably, let's hope, is strange territory for most.
It starts with, maybe this is hinting at what you're getting at. It starts with voice saying, "What's going on inside your head? What have we done to each other?" Is that the kind? And as an analysis of how we present ourselves, an analysis of a relationship, maybe is one of the most disturbing things. Is that the kind of area that you're trying to get at?
I think that at the core of the story, the thing that was of most interest to me was this notion that we create a facade, a narcissistic projection of our better self, we show it to our teachers, we show it to our parents, and we ultimately use it to seduce a mate. And 3 to 5 years into a contract with a spouse, to find out that one or more of the parties has given up on keeping up those appearances, there's going to be some friction, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah, okay. Would you agree with Ben Affleck when he says this is an excellent date movie? Because I'm not sure many people are going to go along with that.
I do. I think it's a great date movie if you enjoy talking to your date. And if you really want some quiet time, it's probably not a good movie to go see with somebody that you love.
Because
I think it will inspire. I mean, there is no doubt when we have screened this movie, and I've been to 3 or 4 screenings, there are things that happen in the film that divide the theater right down the line of male and female, and I do think that people come out of it not, I mean, it sounds kind of cloying and silly, but there is a Team Nick, Team Amy component to the thing, and it's designed to be that way.
Okay, let's just probe a little bit further. Trent Reznor who does the score, fantastic job again doing the score. He said he was surprised about how nasty it was. He said it's a nasty film. True?
There's some nastiness in the film. I think my experience of the film is obviously different from. I've seen it more times than anyone. I've seen it in so many different incarnations. I've seen the dailies of it, and so for me, I think that there's the requisite amount of disdain is had, for each character, as well as the requisite amount of love, and I think Gillian came to the adaptation, being fairly straight down the middle, having her foot on either side of the fence. I think that she has, certain issues with Nick, and certain issues with Amy, and certain issues with Tanner Bolt and Ron DeBoni and all, Margot Dunn, all the other characters. I think everybody gets to have a moment of humanity and shine, and they also get to step on a rake and get hit in the forehead by gardening tools.
You've had experience of adapting best-selling books, of course, before, but does it get any easier working out what to throw away? Particularly when you have a book which is as obsessively loved as this one.
Well, I wish that I got to tell you, I read the book and I was reticent. I really felt, I don't know how do you throw away 360 pages of this and end up with something? And then I read the first draft, and, the woman who wrote the novel wrote the script, and she is really talented. And I could see in the first draft that she knew what we didn't need. And it is it's an odd thing to take people's thoughts and turn them into behavior that you can witness. I know it's a very, you when you're rattling around a marble inside someone's brain, and they get to tell you their deepest, most intimate stuff. It's a very different thing than having to experience somebody who's in the middle of a crime investigation and is giving testimony. And she was able to do it brilliantly.
Can I ask you about Rosamund Pike, cast as Amy, because she is fabulous and she is extraordinary and terrific all the way through. You've described her as being sort of odd, or having a... That's a direct quote, by the way.
Yeah, I'll stand by it.
Okay. Is that what got her the job?
Well, I get the job. I had seen Rosamund in 4 different movies, and over about 8 or 9 years, and every time I didn't feel like I'd gotten any closer to knowing what she was about, who she was as a person, what she wanted as an actor. I felt like every single time was a new, glittering, capable, watchable performance. None of it seemed like a further exploration of a person. She's very inscrutable in that way. And I met her. She flew out to St. Louis, and we met at the Four Seasons, and we had dinner and a couple of drinks, and we were talking. About 2-3 hours into it, it suddenly dawned on me, and I said, "Are you an only child?" And she said, yeah, actually, my parents are musicians, and she's described her upbringing as an only child. And I suddenly realized that's what it is. She's a creature who has been socialized with adults. She's been around adults her whole life, and she just carries herself in this different way. And I thought, that's what Amy needs. It's such an important part of the book. It's such an important part of the character's upbringing, that she is kind of an orchid, a hothouse flower. And so I went away from that meeting thinking, if we can build a schedule around all the sort of transformative things that we need to do with her, she could kill this.
And is it true you told her she got the part? Well, you sent her a text saying you got the role?
Yeah. Isn't that how you're supposed to do it?
That's great. I mean, I kind of always imagine maybe it'd be an agent, or you'd ring her up or something. It just sounds
I couldn't get a hold of her.
Casual.
I couldn't get a hold of her. But I mean, she knew. I mean, I thought she knew that that's the way it was headed, and it was in response to somebody had leaked the information, and all of a sudden it was going to be. And I didn't want her to find out on some blog, and so I couldn't get a hold of her on the phone, so I texted her. Seems totally reasonable to me.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. It's just nice to know the way the movie industry works, and it can just be as casual as
yeah.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the other, just on one other aspect, David, which of your work, which you've been watching a lot recently over here, is House of Cards. Of course, you directed 2 episodes of that and executive produced a whole bunch of others, and you have other TV projects coming up as well. I just wonder, for a man who's directed the movies that you have done, what is the appeal of television? What does TV give you that you might not get out of doing a movie?
It's sort of the difference between, writing a pop song and writing an opera. One of them is you just have so much more screen time to explore the behavior of characters, and more in cinema, the audience is very preconditioned in a kind of Pavlovian way. I mean, you when you test movies and you bring in uninitiated viewers and you roll your latest project in front of them, a lot of times you can see them, if they're 16, 18 minutes into it, they're not kind of getting what, this story hasn't gotten traction for them. They're checking their watches, they're on their phones. They have a kind of expectation that, okay, something should have happened by now, or something big or something. And in television, you don't have that. You don't have that same kind of, every scene has to be about ground acquisition. And what I like about television, aside from the fact that, you don't have as much money to spend on an hourly basis, you're spending $5 million an hour in television, you're spending, $25 to $50 million an hour in movies. There's ample time to have characters who have contradictions between what they say and what they do. They can be extremely layered. They can have real flaws, and you have the time to explore it and still make it part of, a hero's journey or a anti-hero's journey. You have the ability to get to know them and to unmask them. And in cinema, you don't any longer. You got to get to the point.
Well, you get to the point many times in this movie, and I don't think we've trod on any mines. So
I hope not.
I don't think so. I think we've tiptoed round the field, even if we even crossed it. David, we appreciate your time. David Fincher, thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
Thanks, Sam.